Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. I am Alex from the Penn Yan Public Library, and I am happy to be here today with Joan from the Cornell Cooperative Extension. And we're just really thrilled to be presenting today a food demo, and one that really demonstrates how nicely collaboration between multiple agencies, multiple organizations can lead to wonderful results for our community. I've, as a staff member at the public library, I've had this pool of funding from the Living Well available to me for the past several years for specifically food education. And in this past year, I haven't been able to use it because of the pandemic and all of the restrictions that's involved. Well, cut to late 2020, and my wonderful library friends group, the Friends of the Penn Yan Public Library, suggested that there might be ways to use that funding via food giveaways and concomitant Zoom demonstrations, education, and that kind of thing. And so that led me to connect with the Cooperative Extension, with Joan's colleague Caroline from here in the Yates County office, who can't join us today, but who joined us together, right, Joan, and got us going. And the collaborations didn't stop there, because then once we decided we had money to use and food to give away, we had to come up with a place to send that food to get to the people of Penn Yan and Yates County, and that's where the Hope Center came in with their managers at the ProAction agency, and even down to managers at the local supermarkets like Brock from Tops, who made sure that I could get enough cans of tomatoes for this project. So a lot of things had to come together for this to happen, and I'm pleased now to be here with Joan to record sort of the coup de grace, this food education presentation and accompanying demonstration of the recipe that we put out this month. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Joan, to go into your presentation.
Thank you, Alex. And we want to thank Alex and the library and the Friends of the Library for allowing us to participate in this adventure, doing the best we can with COVID. And we're really hoping that once things get returned to normal-ish, whatever that is, that we can do this kind of programming live at a local food pantry and with real people and real food, but we'll do the best we can. The other impetus for this program was that it came up in conversation with Caroline, who, as Alex mentioned, couldn't be with us here today. What would happen if, say, both parents got sick with, say, either the flu or with COVID, or just for some reason, the kids were kind of on their own for a meal or two or three? How many families would have kids who would know what to do and basically how to feed themselves in a pinch or possibly in an emergency situation? And I'm sure we've all been watching the news about some of the things going on in Texas with no power and families really in a very unexpected crisis very suddenly. So just helping kids to think in terms of preparedness and having families pass on skills that can help kids kind of take care of themselves sometimes when they need to do that. So I'm going to pull up our presentation and we'll hit the road with it. So I have share screen. Okay, Alex, how does that look?
Looks good.
Okay, all right. So I work for SNAP-Ed as a nutritionist for the Southern Finger Lakes region, which covers Yates, Schuyler, Steuben, Tioga, Tompkins, and Chemung counties. And I specifically work with Schuyler and Yates, which I really love being able to do. And our presentation today is called Easy Family Meals, and how you can begin getting your kids involved with helping in the kitchen, feeding themselves, and also by doing that, maybe avoiding some of the issues kids have with liking and not liking things, and with some of the picky eater issues some families run into. So what I would like you to think about are, what are your current biggest challenges to feeding your family healthy? Is it that you're on a very tight budget right now? Is it that because of working and juggling maybe kids learning at home, time constraints are really severe? A lot of people are caregiving for other family members. We have a lot of situations where grandparents are trying to take care of kids in their homes. And so families, I mean, you see happy family there on the left, all having a good time and looking relaxed. And that's not the situation for a lot of people right now. So we're going to talk about some hints and some recipes to help you maybe overcome some of these challenges. One way to start thinking about eating healthy on a budget when time is tight is to think of the My Plate concept. And if you have kids or grandkids at home, they have seen this in school, most likely. They use some of these symbols in the school cafeteria and also in some of the health classes. And the whole idea is to kind of try to plan your meals around this mental framework. And as you can see, the whole left-hand side of the plate is fruit and vegetables. And that's a lot. That is really a lot. And that's probably not the way, well, we know it's not the way most Americans eat normally, but it is something that does make sure you get all your vitamins and minerals. Some recent publications have come out that show that most Americans, including kids, don't get enough calcium, don't get enough vitamin D. And by making sure we get a mix of all of the 5 different groupings of food, we can try to alleviate that. You have about a quarter of the plate is grains, and the little mantra we use is try to make half your grains whole grains, and we'll talk about some ideas for that. And then only about a quarter of the plate is protein, and this could be lean meat, this could be skinless chicken, or it can be meat alternatives such as beans or peanut butter or tofu, or some of the dairy products can also be kind of used as protein sources too. And then you see the little dairy plates for the cup up there in the corner. And we do recommend having kids move to low-fat dairy at about age 2. There are fortunately more and more good choices in low-fat dairy available locally. But you definitely do want your dairy, and that's a lot of your calcium and protein coming in there as well. So it doesn't have to be a traditional everything separated on the plate like this. I mean, you don't have to have little lines and everything in its little category. They do make kids' plates like this, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can have the traditional entree with sides. Here you have like chicken, looks like some kind of squash or something, and bread, and then your little group of vegetables, and then some fruit and your glass of milk. So that would be like the traditional plate, but you can eat just as healthy and sometimes a lot more economically by mixing things up. So you can do a soup, a stew, casserole, stir fry by mixing everything together, and then maybe serving a piece of fruit for dessert and with a glass of low-fat milk. And it's just as healthy as if everything was in its little compartment. Another way you can go is with sandwiches or wraps or salads. It doesn't have to be cooked. And by not cooking a couple times a week, you save time, you save energy. And that's not being lazy, that is being efficient. And you can eat just as healthy going this way too. And again, you could put a slice of cheese on the sandwich that would provide your low-fat dairy, or you could have some fruit as a dessert. And again, it doesn't have to be turkey or tuna or meat. It can be something like egg salad. It can be peanut butter. Some people mash up beans and put them on sandwiches if you are going without meat or animal products. So you do have lots of choices for lots of variety here too. In a little bit, we will talk about some people do have intolerances to milk and dairy, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here, because I know that is a factor for some folks. Here are some ideas of having foods that you can stock up on for emergencies coming, say, we usually do this late October, early November, making sure we have this kind of stuff in the house, case of a snowstorm, case of an ice storm. We have really dipped into this supply the last couple of weeks at home. Things like tuna, canned beans, canned tomatoes, canned soup and vegetables, brown rice, quick oats, pasta, frozen peas and corn, frozen broccoli, bags of apples and oranges. They keep for several weeks. Even the fresh apples and oranges keep for several weeks. If and when you can, on the canned stuff, you do want to try to get the no salt added. And one nice thing is nowadays, they are usually the same size can and the same price as the regular version. Say if you have a can of canned carrots. The no salt added variety is usually the same size can and the same price. That didn't used to be the case, but now it usually is. You get the same amount. So these are just some ideas of things that you can stock up on and have just in case of an emergency. And this will be the only time I will ever recommend it, but just in case somebody gets the flu or a tummy bug, you might want to have a couple of bottles of Gatorade under the sink or under a counter, just for if somebody's recovering from some kind of intestinal bug. We certainly don't recommend that kids or families drink that regularly, but it does have its place. And sometimes if you're feeling just too sick to even go to the store and just get that. So it is nice to have a couple of little jugs of that hanging around underneath. This is a long list. I won't go into it, but this is something that if you put your email or provide your email to Alex, we can send you this list in the mail. Fruits and vegetables that tend to be low in cost year round, things that don't have a lot of seasonal fluctuations, things like apples, raisins, frozen spinach, carrots tend to have a very stable price all year round. Celery, potatoes. I disagree with the pepper one here. Peppers do fluctuate quite a bit from winter to summer. And then any of the legumes, the dried beans, tend to be fairly stable in price year round. Things like pinto beans, kidney beans, and you can use dried or canned. I actually use both at home, and we're going to be actually using some canned black beans today, and I'll show you how to deal with those a little bit. You do want to think seasonally. For example, as you probably know, if you get strawberries in June, they're fresh, they're delicious, they're tasty, the cost is fairly reasonable. If you're looking for strawberries, like say you want to have them with Christmas dinner, they're not going to taste very good. They've been on a truck from somewhere for 4 or 5 days, and they're also very, very expensive. So you're not getting the nutrition or the flavor, so don't waste your money. Do try to get things when they are in season, because that's when they're freshest. They have the highest vitamin and mineral levels. We're very, very fortunate in our area that we have a really good choice of options for fresh veggies and fresh fruit. We have farmers markets, we have farm stands, we have the produce auction, and you may or may not have heard of CSAs, community supported agriculture programs, where you buy a share with either a farmer or a group of local farmers, and they provide you for a set amount. They provide you with a certain amount of fresh fruit and vegetables throughout the growing season. This used to be maybe not the greatest concept for people with small families or people who are living alone, because you would get a lot more than you could use. But some of the CSAs are now offering quarter and half shares. And if this is something you're interested in looking into, we can get you more information about that. All right, these are just some ideas to make life a little bit easier. I mean, we've all been there where you're coming home from work, you've got 1 hour to get supper on the table, you have no idea what you're having, you run to the store, grab whatever you can off the shelf. I mean, this is reality, we all do this, but in the ideal world, do try to cook ahead if you have time, maybe cooking 2 or 3 portions of something on the weekend and then freezing some of it. And that way you have an extra meal for later in the week, you have leftovers, and you have some food for lunches as well. And again, things like soup, stews, and casseroles, they really do help stretch your food dollars, because by adding either brown rice or pasta or beans, you're getting a larger volume of food. You're still getting all the protein you need, but you're saving a little bit of money by bulking things up a little bit. As far as the pasta and whole grains, which we say, make half your grains whole grains. That's another one of the little sayings that we have. I found personally, I can't get my family to eat whole grain pasta. It's a really hard sell, but they will eat brown rice. And so if you can't get it one way, you try to get it another way. Or you might find that everybody turns up their nose at whole wheat bread, but maybe they'll eat the whole wheat pasta. So you try to get it in whatever way you can. It doesn't all have to be whole grain, but you do want to try to increase that, because it does have fiber and nutrients that we do need. Okay, again, we mentioned this, going meatless. Most Americans get more than enough protein, and your dried beans or your legumes are high in protein, they're high in fiber, they're low in fat, and they're very, very inexpensive compared to a lot of your other protein sources. A lot of people have been saying how much they've noticed beef prices have gone up in the last year since the COVID pandemic began. And I think food prices have gone up across the board. So by buying beans, you do save quite a bit of money. One of the biggest complaints we hear from some of the local food pantries is that they can't give away the beans for love or money. People don't know what to do with them. And one answer is that the canned are a little bit easier to use. You just open them up and rinse them off. The dried beans do take a little bit of time and prep to cook. But if you use lentils, they cook up very, very quickly. They don't have the very long cooking times of some of the other larger beans. And another thing, kids I've found tend to not like kidney beans because they're a little bit bigger, they're a little bit tougher, they have kind of that tough skin. Whereas pinto beans are smaller, a little bit softer, and kids who don't like kidney beans will often eat the pinto beans. So these are just some ideas for increasing your intake of beans. And you don't have to go totally meatless all the time. I mean, try it maybe 1 or 2 meals a week. The other thing is that there are red lentils as well as the brown lentils. They actually cook up to a golden color. And I think sometimes with the lentils, people don't like the brown. They're brown. But the red lentils are this beautiful golden color. And I think people find them more appetizing for that reason. But the brown lentils are nice because you can hide them in things. You can hide them in meatballs, you can hide them in meatloaf. And again, still getting some protein and also stretching your food dollars. Okay, we're going to spend a couple of minutes talking about picky eaters because there's usually one in every family. And to be honest, sometimes there are not easy answers to this one. Sometimes it's waiting till they're 18 and out of the house. But there are some things that you can try, which may or may not work. And I'm talking about the kids who all they'll eat is chicken nuggets or hot dogs for weeks, months, years. And every time you go to the pediatrician, it's like, I can't believe the kid is still alive. Or I had one that wouldn't eat anything green except Skittles. That was the only green food that passed that kid's lips for years and years and years. But there is some hope, and there are some ideas that may help. One is to get your kids involved in food prep early in life. And this can be as simple as putting a clean picnic cloth on the living room floor and giving your kids chunks of food to play with. Maybe red pepper strips, carrot strips, cucumber slices. The more colorful, the better. And let them play with them like blocks or toys. They get to handle them, feel them, touch them, taste them if they want. And it's not like this pressure of sitting at the table, you are going to eat this tonight kind of thing. You do need to be cognizant about avoiding sizes that could cause a choking hazard, for example, apple chunks or grapes that are a potential choking hazard, but let kids play with food. Another thing is that most small kids, like this little guy here, they love to play in the sink. They love to play with water. So let them wash the lettuce, let them wash the apples, let them rip up lettuce leaves, and let them, quote unquote, help you, whether it's helping or not. Let them make little cracker critters like this little guy here with shredded cheese on a plate and then eat it. As they get a little bit older, they can start cutting with like a soft plastic knife, like a picnic knife. And there are some kids' knives. I'll show you those in a minute. And also learning how to use a grater very carefully, and then either cracking and scrambling eggs. And getting involved in food prep in some simple ways and gradually incorporating them into meal planning and even shopping. If they feel like they have a choice or a say in what's being offered, they may be a little bit more cooperative. Sometimes it's as simple as how you cut something up. Like you have either a whole orange or the orange quarters here on the left. They may be hard for a kid to handle. How do you get the peel off? How do you get that pulpy part off? But if you cut them into orange smiles, like on the right, they're a lot easier for kids to pull apart and eat the juicy section. So something as simple as how something is presented. Another thought is they may not like cooked vegetables, but may actually like raw vegetables better. And I've seen this with broccoli and, believe it or not, with beets. Cooked beets, they have a smell. They're kind of a muddy color. Kids don't like them. But if you have a crisp piece of raw beet, it's crunchy, it's sweet, and some kids will go for the raw and not the cooked, or the cold and not the hot, because sometimes it's the smell that's turning them off as much as the look or the texture of something. This is a phrase that we use a lot: don't yuck my yum. If a kid wants to like something, don't discourage them. Older siblings are very guilty of this. Sometimes they'll say like, ooh, I don't like that. Or I've even seen teachers in school say, ooh, my class isn't going to eat that. You're just setting things up for failure. Instead, just say, well, yeah, let's see if you like that. Maybe you'll like that. And if the kid does try it, say something like, wow, that's great, you tried that. And if they don't like it, hey, that's okay, we'll try it again another time. You don't want to try to force them. And studies have shown that it may take up to 5 or 6 introductions of a new food before a kid will actually really try to eat it. And that's okay. And again, don't necessarily do it at the table, do it at times other than at the table. And Caroline mentioned the other day, if she has something new that she doesn't know if her kids will like, she slips it to them while they're eating television, and they just go ahead and eat it without even realizing that they're trying something new. So the idea is not to make it a confrontational situation and to avoid the battle of the wills, because it's a dead end. It's not going to go anywhere that way. Lastly, kids who either have a family garden, or maybe there's a garden at grandma's house, or if there's a school or community garden that they can get involved with, kids who help grow food, eat a wider variety of foods, they're more likely to try something new. And this has been seen in studies, and I've seen it in some of the community garden experiences that we've had. So get kids growing something. And even if you don't have the room, it can be as simple as maybe some bean seeds in a cup. What you see on the right here are peas that were planted in just little Dixie cups, and we hung strings in the window, and the pea plants are climbing the window, and they're really pretty. We did get some peas off of these too. And if the kid has their hand in the dirt, or if they're seeing how things grow out in nature, they're much more likely to be willing to try it at the table. Okay, just very quickly on knife safety, the best thing to start with is like a plastic picnic knife with real small kids. There are knives on the market. These happen to be the ones we use. They're from a company called Curious Chef. They're about half the price if you get them directly from the company as from Amazon. And they're a good way to introduce kids to knife cutting skills. And hopefully down the line, we can do a series where we're showing kids exactly how to cut something in a safe manner. These are great. They come in 3 different sizes, so you can go small, medium, large. If a kid really wants to try to cut themselves with these, they can. I've seen them do that, but they're generally safe. Cut something as firm as carrots. I wouldn't try something like butternut squash, but they can handle carrots, cucumbers, most of your vegetables, apples, and most of your fruit. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is talk about some ways to make a meal. I'm going to actually skip this activity. This would be an activity we would do with a live group, where we would pick foods off of a screen or live, hopefully, and have them come up with a quick and easy family meal that you could make at the last minute. So we're going to pass by this today. Hopefully we'll get to do this live again in the future. And at this time, I would ask people if they had any questions. And a lot of times the questions that come up are about kids who are picky eaters. And then the one thing that we do want to mention, because it does come up often, is about people who can't tolerate milk because of lactose intolerance or other reasons. And there are good milk alternatives available on the market. People can use soy milk, which is also a good protein source and is fortified with calcium. So it's pretty much equivalent to regular milk when it comes to nutrient composition. Almond milk and rice milk, they do taste good. People do like to use them, but they do not have the same protein content as regular milk. Soy milk does. And Also, there are lactose-free milks available. They are a little bit more expensive. And some people find that they can tolerate things like yogurt or cheese. One of my kids can't drink milk to save his life, but can have low-fat dairy as either yogurt or cheese. That's sometimes tolerated a little bit better. And then there are some foods, some fruit and vegetables that do have some calcium. Oranges and broccoli are the two that come to mind. They have a decent amount of calcium in them too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a dairy source. It can be a non-dairy source. Okay, we're going to transition towards our food demonstration here. Two misconceptions that we need to deal with first. The first misconception is that you need a fancy kitchen to make delicious, healthy meals. The answer is no. Here's my kitchen here. It's very simple. It's very basic. I have about 3 square feet of open counter space, and you can make a lot of really, really delicious meals with very limited space. A lot of us are watching cooking shows online right now because of the pandemic, and there are some very beautiful, creative things going on YouTube, but a lot of the people who do cooking shows have paid promoters who are giving them a bonus for using their equipment, using their facilities, and they're really high end, and it can be kind of discouraging. You don't need all that. You really don't. The other misconception is that you need a lot of fancy equipment like 20-piece knife sets and specially coated pans and 5 or 10 gradated bowl sets. You don't. This is basically what I use 80 to 90% of the time. A lot of it was picked up at either thrift stores or yard sales. You do want to buy the best knife you can, best chef's knife you can, but other than that, it doesn't need to be fancy. It can be plastic. You can have plastic measuring cups, measuring spoons, but you can get really nice stuff used. So don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money on fancy equipment. Hand washing, we used to have to teach this, and now because of the pandemic, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I think we have all had it pounded into our heads over and over again. Just one point, it doesn't matter if the water is hot or cold. It should be running water, and you do need to use soap. That's the only point I'm going to make here. And you do need to go about 20 seconds. And there are several songs you can do. You can do the Happy Birthday song twice. You can do the alphabet song, Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, and also This Land Is Your Land. Any of those will work to get that 20 seconds of scrubbing with soap. All right, I'm going to take a couple of minutes here to move things around, and we'll get right into our food demo. This is our recipe: 3-can chicken, 3-can chili. It's pretty much as simple as it sounds, but it's a great way to get kids going in the kitchen. We're going to make a very simple and basic 3-can chili, and then we'll talk about some of the variations for kind of using what you have in the house. So, as the name implies, the ingredients are beans, and in this case, we're using black beans. These are the no salt added variety. If you can't get these, you can just get the regular ones and rinse them off. That gets rid of some of the salt. And also, you can use the gooky stuff in beans. I don't happen to like it. Some people use it, some people don't. But by rinsing the beans, you get rid of some of that gel-like stuff around them, and you do reduce the salt a little bit. We're using a can of corn. Again, the no salt added variety was available, so we have that. And again, you can rinse them off, and that would help get rid of any salt if you don't have the no salt added kind. Your other good choice here would be frozen corn. I think it tastes a little bit fresher. I don't know, canned corn always makes me think of elementary school, but either one will do. And it's basically what you have in the house. The nice thing nowadays, and this is great when working with kids, a lot of cans now have this pull top lid. Actually, 2 out of these 3 cans had the pull top lid. So that makes it a little bit easier for kids to handle. And then our crushed tomatoes. And as Alex mentioned, the manager at Tops was able to get the smaller cans. The recipe only calls for about 15 ounces of crushed tomatoes, and it normally does come in a 28-ounce can. These usually are not no salt added, but since we have the no salt added for the other two, we're probably okay. And we're going to use about half the can here for that. And again, these are the crushed tomatoes. So let me get my pot and let's made. So it's as simple as Bing. Bing. And again, the black beans are a little bit softer than the kidney beans, a little bit less tough, either the black beans or the pinto beans. And then about half of the can of the crushed tomatoes, half of the big can. The folks who got meal kits at the pantry, you were given the smaller cans, and so you would use the whole can. And we'll just stir that together. And then for seasoning, the recipe does call for some chili powder. And chili powder, most varieties are fairly mild, and so you can use up to even a tablespoon of chili powder. Here you go. Boy, that smells good. So just regular chili powder. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cumin too. It's not in the recipe, but just because, you know, often add both and I happen to have it. One of the great things about living where we do is that you can get spices in bulk that are very fresh and at reasonable prices. The little glass jars of spices at the grocery store, they are very expensive. And if you buy it at the dollar store, you get a large amount, but there's usually a question of the freshness. Some of those have been sitting around for weeks or months in warehouses. So we're fortunate that we live in a place where we can get bulk spices that are fairly fresh and fairly cheap. So teaspoon of cumin, tablespoon of chili powder, and you can adjust those to your taste. And then you just stir and heat. So I will be right back. Okay. And through the magic of television or the internet here, here's what you have. A bowl of chili, very quick, very easy, kids can help. You can serve it over brown rice or even over elbow noodles. This actually has a little bit of brown rice mixed into it. It was left over from the other day. And then by adding the orange, that gives you your fruit. Your vegetables are your tomatoes and your corn. Your protein source is your beans. And then if you had a glass of low-fat milk with it, that would give you that complete My Plate meal in about 5 minutes. And again, here's what I meant by cutting the oranges into smiles. These are much easier for kids to handle than either a whole orange or the orange quarter sections. They kind of open up this way and much easier for kids to peel and handle. So you get more fresh fruit into them. So that is our basic meal, and I hope you enjoy making it. Before we go, I just want to show you one very quick variation because again, sometimes we don't have everything we want or need on hand. So I'm just going to go wipe my fingers off and I'll show you variation number 2. Okay. Like in music, they have what they call theme and variations. You have a musical theme and then different artists or different instruments will take off on that. So we just did our Mexican theme and now we're going to do our Italian theme. You know, maybe we don't have the black beans in the house or maybe we don't have the corn in the house. So same thing, get the pot. Well, actually we'll just do the bowl here. Okay, so what I'm using in this case are cannellini beans. They're kind of white beans. These are fairly soft, even though they're a little bit larger. They are a nice soft bean kids might like. We're using a can of mushrooms, stems and pieces, again, rinsed. You don't want all that mushroom liquid. You do want to drain that, rinse them off and drain that a little bit. And then again, the other half of my can of crushed tomatoes. And so this would be the Italian version. served over some elbow noodles. They cook up very, very quickly. And again, with a little bit of Italian seasoning. Again, the seasoning's bought in bulk, not in those little expensive glass jars, but buying them in bulk. And you have a nice tasty meal in about 5 minutes here. And again, you would have your fruit, you get that. And maybe a glass of low-fat milk or some yogurt for dessert. And that would give you your complete meal very, very quickly. And this is something that a kid can either do on their own or help out with. So people often ask us, where can I get recipes that are kid-friendly and healthy and easy on the budget? And here are 4 of the main ones that we recommend. The first is snapednewyork.org. It's a statewide SNAP-Ed website, and new recipes are being added almost daily at this point. And there are videos, tip sheets, and other resources for kids on there. On the right, foodhero.org. This is a fantastic website, lots and lots and lots of recipes. They have a whole kids section on here with coloring sheets and tip sheets. They have videos of kids helping make things in the kitchen, including pizza. There's a no yeast pizza crust on there that's really good, and lots of resources for families. My Plate Kitchen is part of the Choose My Plate website, and there are recipes on here that are very, very inexpensive. There are also recipes that feature ingredients used in the Latino community, and we use that one quite a bit. And the final one is cookingmatters.org, which really helps people who are maybe accessing food pantries to make quick, easy, healthy meals at home. So any one of these 4 would be a website we would recommend if you're looking for good recipe sources that are easy on the budget. Okay, and again, I'll mention Cooking Matters. In normal times, when we're not dealing with lockdowns and pandemics, we do Cooking Matters classes. We have classes available for kids and teens and families. We have parent versions, and also we have one-time activities we can do at the food pantry or in the community. And hopefully, as life returns to normal, we'll be having these in the area. Just have to mention this. We talk about with meals, plan, purchase, prepare, 3 Ps, plan, purchase, prepare. There's a 4th P, and it's physical activity. And we tell kids that there's something on the back of the My Plate. And when they turn the plate over, what they see is a picture of kids doing physical activity, just as important as what you eat to your health. Okay. Here's some local programs to help you if you're struggling to make ends meet and feed the family. Please look into SNAP, find out if you're eligible. SNAP is actually underutilized in our area. Many of you know about the local food pantries, both the brick and mortar pantries and the mobile pantries, and the recent community food distributions. If you're a senior, please get in touch with your Office for Aging about senior meal sites, Meals on Wheels. And there's also something called the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, where people are given vouchers for fresh fruit and vegetables during the summer. And so please look for these opportunities in your area. And if you have any questions, please contact Alex at the library and he'll contact me and we'll get you the information that you need. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I hope to see you all live at the local pantries in the future. And we want to thank again our sponsors, because this was a multi-agency project. And we want to thank each and every one of the people who made this possible. It couldn't have been done without help from every single one of them. So thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Joan.
Okay. And here's just, this is the SNAP-Ed card. If people need more information, we can get you this card and you can make the call you need to make. Okay.
All right, fantastic. And we'll have this posted up on YouTube for everyone to watch and enjoy and benefit from. And I hope we'll be doing another session on Zoom if necessary, and back in person someday, hopefully. But we will definitely be doing more of these. So thank you so much, Joan. and we'll talk again real soon.
Everyone have a great day.